How's it going, everyone? This is Javita, and welcome to what will hopefully be the first of kind of a series on how to find X or how to find a particular resource. I've talked about doing this in the past, but I've never quite got around to it. But I recently had a request to basically show how to find gems, and I could do like one overarching video to how to find all of them, but it would either be really long or it'd have to be just really basic general information. So at least for this episode and probably following episodes, I'll be zeroing in on a particular resource, and in this case, rubies. The reason why I'm doing rubies first is because I feel like it's a really good kind of beginner gem. They're relatively easy to find, and they are pretty useful for a lot of different things. They're not so useful for making tools, but as far as ruby sling bows and ruby grapples, they are quite nice. So ruby grapples are invaluable for getting around and over obstacles, as well as the ruby sling bow is an excellent beginner sling bow for doing hunts. They're kind of like snipers, really long range, and they shoot dead straight. Some favor emerald grapples over ruby, but there's not as many useful things to do with emeralds, so that's kind of at least why I'm not talking about the emerald grapple. Certainly if you're more interested in making tools, diamonds or sapphires might be your better choice. Sapphires, the sapphire grapple is pretty decent. It's slow, but it has a stupidly long range. So you could argue sapphires, but they're not as user-friendly. So enough ranting about the usefulnesses of different gems. Let's get started. So certainly probably your easiest way to find rubies would be to get an atlas for Volto and at least one ruby to be able to put in it to generate a heat map. So your two options here are to either kind of blunder your way into finding a ruby, or you could go to a shop and buy one ruby, look at it as a kind of a investment in future prosperity. But one thing that is kind of interesting that I just very recently discovered is that rubies actually kind of have two areas that they can spawn in. The one I'm most familiar with are in the mountains, and that's probably at the top of the atlas now. Those are probably mountains. And let's see. Well, good lord, my inventory is a disaster. Let's drop that for now. Pop the ruby out. So yeah, there's definitely ice over there, so that's definitely mountains. The ruby back in. So yeah, the hot spots towards the top of the atlas, those are mountains, but then right here, it's not as hot, but there are rubies here, and has nothing to do with mountains. So Varus and I actually kind of talked about this for a little while, and we kind of narrowed down to the fact that rubies will have at least a small chance to spawn at their appropriate elevations in solid rock. So the reason why there's rubies down there basically is because it's solid rock down there. If you're familiar with Volto, you know you can dig just about anywhere and you run into cave systems. They're literally everywhere. We've actually been searching for areas where it's just solid rock so we can do branch mining to not only get resources, but really just to get red rock. It's kind of annoying to have to try to get it out of the cave systems and things like that. We just wanted some solid rock to tear into to get a variety of stone. So and a good way to find the solid rock is to find bodies of water, and as you can see, if there's solid rock, there's rubies, so you can actually ironically use rubies to help you find essentially one of the most common resources in the game. Kind of crazy. A note on trying to find rubies in these conditions, I wouldn't exactly recommend it. I was pulling out smart stacks of rock at a time, and after several hours coming home with, I think one time I did come home with about 80 rubies, but then other times it was more like 20 or 30. So it's not the fastest way to get them, but if you're after a variety of things, or you just want to gather maybe some rock and some other resources, and oh hey, I happen to find a few rubies, that might be a good option for you. To drive home the cave question a little bit harder, here's a body of water, and as you can see, the heat map is completely cold. And so I did a little bit of investigating, and I found that there is a cave system right underneath this body of water. So it kind of drives home the fact that if you want rubies, you either have to be in solid rock or in the caves under mountains. The caves under mountains seem to be quite plentiful with rubies, whereas caves pretty much anywhere else are completely devoid of rubies. So yeah, so there's that. Let's head over to the mountains and see if we can find some rubies. Okay, we are back, and basically, as you can see, wherever there's mountains, there's pretty much rubies. There seems to be a particularly hot spot right in front of me, so basically, I guess right where that ice cap is. So basically, two options to get to them. You can look for a natural cave nearby, which, since there's water down here, sometimes the water will open up to the cave system, but nothing really jumping out at me. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's really anything there. So pretty much the next best option is to just dig in. So let's see here. Oh. Let's unequip that, put it back on. So yeah, if your Atlas goes blank like that, just re-equipping it usually fixes it. That's only happened to me like twice, so I'm not sure what's going on with that, but so this seems particularly hot right about here. So let's just start digging down, and hopefully we'll hit the caves relatively quickly, but at any rate, I'll probably cut out the next few moments. Okay, so this is kind of amusing. I dug straight down, which really isn't recommended for this reason, but I found some titanium that led me to this right here. So this is ruby. This has never happened to me, so this is like insane. It's gotta be like camera luck or something, but I just happened to basically find solid rock straight down to lava. I think mantle's probably just on the other side of that lava. In fact, against better judgment, let's kind of... Okay, so there's some distance, and yeah, for some reason couldn't get back through that hole, but yeah, that is pretty crazy that I dug straight down and immediately found ruby. Also kind of surprising that I didn't find any caves, but I could have just found that perfect chute that went straight to cave, or went straight to bedrock rather. So probably take me a bit to find that shaft that I just dug, so I think I'll go ahead, probably go back down there, get the rubies, and finish finding the caves. So until then. Okay, so finally found the mine shaft. It didn't take too terribly long to get to, but let's just see how many are actually here. A good thing to note is that luck does affect gems now, so as you can see, I'm getting like 2 or 3 gems per node, which is amazing. I have heard, however, if you're mining somewhere like on a moon, so that would be like, what, Epsilon and Adoim, that the gem nodes, since it's a lower tier planet, they only give like 1 per node, with maybe the rare chance to get 2. So at least for Adoim, the diamonds are fairly easy to get. So yeah, wow, we got 16 rubies from that 1 node. That is pretty awesome. So while diamonds are fairly easy to find. You do have to get them in like solid rock, and since you only get one per node, I guess it balances out, but it's not as nice as mining gems on a ring world, unfortunately. So I think I'll dig a horizontal tunnel. How about right here? See if I can find some caves. Until then. Okay, so I was starting to get a little bit discouraged. Here's our original mine shaft, and I had to go this far to get to the caves, which really isn't that bad, but it just kind of depends on, I guess, your luck as to how fast you find the caves. Sometimes I find them almost immediately, other times it feels like it takes forever. But once you're down in here, you want to pay attention to your elevation. So if you notice up here, I have the debug menu open. If you're unfamiliar how to get to this, you can hit F1 to make it show. And so F1 just makes this bar at the top hide and show. Come over here to menu, drop down, and go to debug information. So by default, it'll probably look different to this, but you can drag this thing and make it as big or small as you possibly want. And as you can see, there's all sorts of information in there, but basically for this purpose, you're mostly just interested in this altitude right here. This is your X and Z coordinate, so, or north and east coordinate, and then over here you have altitude. So Rubies, if I remember correctly, they favor elevations. They can spawn as high as 50 and all the way essentially down to bedrock. You'll usually hit lava before you get to bedrock, so just keep that in mind. They do favor a narrower band between those ranges. I would have to look it up, and in fact I guess I'll go look that up just to give some accurate information here. Okay, so I looked up the gem mega thread. So this is pretty much my go-to source whenever I'm looking for gems and things like that. But I'll throw a link to this in the description, and basically you just come down here and look for the color that you're interested in. And right here, this is, I believe, the ideal spawn ranges, so elevations 10 through 40. If you're unfamiliar, bedrock is 0, and then the top of the sky is like 256 or something like that. So, but you come down here, and Stretchius has made this awesome chart right here, and you can look that, let's see here, Ruby. So the minimum elevation it can spawn at is 0. The maximum is 50, and then you have this kind of best range that's 10 to 40. So this is pretty much true for any resource imaginable. There's the ranges it will spawn in, and then there's kind of the most dense area in between there somewhere. So we want to stick to basically anywhere from 0 to 50 while we're inside of this cave. So hop back over to the game, and so as you can see here, our altitude's right here, so we are right in kind of the ideal range. So just kind of have a look around and see if we can't find any rubies. Now, if you're not using an atlas, your job of staying inside of these hot spots is going to be a little bit more difficult, but there is a trick to combat this. You could climb essentially to the top or the tallest part of the mountain, or kind of the middle section, save that location and set it as a waypoint once you're in the caves, and that will kind of give you an idea. Okay, there's the center of the mountain. I need to stay roughly in that general area, kind of underneath that waypoint. But honestly, having an atlas is pretty invaluable for staying inside the hot spots. It's not a perfect tool, but it's the best tool we have and can be a great help if used correctly. So let's kind of take a look around. So I've said many times in the past that rubies are essentially the easiest gem to find. However, that's relative. None of the gems are, super easy to find. There are methods to find them fairly reliably, but they're by no means like easy mode to get. So they are going to require a certain amount of exploration and stubbornness, maybe, to find them. So, oh, there's a glowing mushroom over there. And as you can see, part of the reward for mining gems is all the extra stuff that you find along the way. So you kind of have to look at it, oh, I'm going to find some gems, but I'm also going to find a bunch of other things that are semi-valuable depending on what you value. So I already found some gold and silver, some hard gold just about jumped in that lava. But ooh, there's some more gold over there. Let's try to stay focused here. Check our atlas, and so see, yeah, we've already kind of ventured out a little ways of the hot spot. Kind of go off in this direction and hopefully we'll get lucky. Because definitely a fair bit of luck is involved. Usually when you find them in the caves, they seem to be fairly easy to spot, but now, maybe due to overmining or something, they seem to be very tucked away in the nooks and crannies and not just completely obvious. Ooh, there we go. So there's some ruby, and okay, nice. I was like, yeah, so that was only 2 veins. That's kind of one of the bad parts of mining rubies in the caves is the seams tend to be pretty small because they run into gravel or other things that they can't actually spawn in. But let's see if there's anybody else hiding around. So really, just kind of like... So I wonder if it's particularly hot right there just because it is solid rock. Usually I wouldn't recommend digging into the cave walls, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. I'm actually... Oh, and this is actually owned by somebody. That's interesting. So, did I just happen onto somebody's mine or something? That's... Okay. So, this person has the majority of this claimed. I wonder, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they're reserving the hot spot to either mine out, or maybe they're doing their own experiment, because, yeah, I'm one to talk. I've beaconed an entire mountain to test out sapphires. So... Okay, so I guess we might as well move on. That was a pretty short-lived experiment right there. But frustratingly, that's kind of the spot we would like to be. Okay, so this is kind of taking a while, so I guess I'll kind of spare you all time and cut to when I finally find some. And I'll kind of, let's see here, it's 8:51 at the moment, and give you all kind of a recap of how long it took me to find some. Okay, so amusingly, yeah, so we found a portal. Yeah, Cuddlepunk, Public Mines, so probably not gonna find a whole lot here. I mean, it's still showing up hot, but if this is really public and has been explored, all the easy or obvious gems are probably, well, oh, okay, so never mind. Just got insanely lucky there, I feel. Nice, got 3-4 veins so far. So, okay, maybe not such a waste of time. It's only 8:54, so it's not like a bunch of time has passed, and these, oh no, those are wild, so evidence that other players have been here, and probably not the best use of our time to be exploring areas where it's obvious other players have explored, apparently within 13 hours, because these torches would otherwise have respawned unless, you know, I suppose they could have been here for much longer if players keep coming here and disrupting world regeneration, which just reconfirms that we probably should find a different area. Let's check the atlas and see. So we're in a bit of a better area, so kind of below my crosshairs, probably a little bit hard to see, but kind of below our crosshairs, that really bright spot, that's the area that was beaconed, and so we managed to get over here in this kind of bigger area. But I think I'll have a look around a little bit more and see what we can find. Okay, so here's some more evidence of player activity. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and call quits on this area. I have no confidence that I'm gonna find anything here with so much player activity. I mean, I did get lucky with that one vein. It was, I mean, it wasn't overly hidden, but it was not in the most obvious location. And I feel like that is going to be the only gems we find are just the ones that you just have to basically trip over to find. So I think I'll go find a new location and let's and try again. So, oh, nice hard goal. Okay, so we are back. I've traveled to this next kind of blob of hotspot. The place that we were at last is kind of down there at the bottom of the atlas. It turns out that was actually really right underneath the unincorporated 1.0 or whatever. And so yeah, I kind of should have known better, and you know, it just goes to show you can't blindly follow the atlas. I mean, you can, but results will vary. And as you can see, it looks like there should be some natural openings to these caves if I can find the right spot. There we go. So it looks like we need to go off in this direction, but this is a particularly large mountain and it's covered with ice, so it's particularly tall, and those usually seem to be a little bit more reliable, but you know, really it comes down to luck and all of that mumbo jumbo. So, oh nice, more hard coal. Let's have a look around, see what we can find. Oh. So I want to blame this on camera luck. You know, it's last several times I've gone mining for rubies, I have not been this lucky. Of course, you know, I did run into that public mine, which I guess you could argue that was a bit unlucky, but still found rubies even there. Let's grab this gold. So pretty awesome so far. But you know, this is hugely luck driven, so don't get too discouraged if you don't have these same kinds of results. It is now 9:03, so it took some time to get over to this new mountain, but not excessive. But of course, how fast you can run and how good you are with a grapple, or how willing you are to use a grapple rather, will kind of determine the time investment involved. Let's check out up here. And we're at elevation 32, so we're about where we need to be. So even down here, we're still in the 20s, and the minimum ideal range is 10, which that would be in lava. So let's consult the atlas. Okay, so we need to go mostly in, was that south? Let's see if we can't find some more. And you kind of, you know, you can hang out low and explore low for a while, but keep in mind that, you know, just because like elevation 50 isn't necessarily the ideal range doesn't mean there's not plenty of rubies up there. So they can be rarer up there, or they should be at least, but you can still find some up there, particularly if other players have been in the area and, you know, they stick to ideal ranges. So just kind of keep in mind that you are exploring a three-dimensional area, not just the very deep down dark places. So something to keep in mind. So here in a little bit, have I already gone off track again? Oh, kind of go off this direction, I guess. So just, you know, some thoughts to keep in mind while you're looking. That don't forget what's above you as well as what's below you. Ah, nice gold, some mushrooms. Let's try. Oh, there we go. I'm trying not to get too distracted. So, yeah, you know, you're not gonna strike it rich necessarily all at once, but you should eventually get it. As you can see, having an atlas can be quite invaluable. But anyway, I think that covers this episode pretty nicely. You got a general idea of how to find rubies. And let's just see, I mean, we haven't found a huge amount, but yeah, we're already up to 52 rubies. I might even like count up the ruby veins that I found, but it probably, surely it wasn't any more than like 20. I'd be surprised if I found 20 nodes. But when you're getting 2 to 3 at a time, you know, 20 turns into, you know, 60. So, yeah. As far as what gem I'll do next, probably do diamonds next. I think that's the next most useful and easiest to find gem. So stay tuned for that. This was Javita, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and if there's anything you didn't like, please let me know down below.